Hello students, welcome to Sri Jayendra's Ring Zone classes. I'm your friend and mentor for coming classes with respect to physics. This is lecture number 4 of our unit Semiconductors. So let's begin with today's class. This session is part 2 of the PN junction diode where we discuss the application and uses of the PN junction diode. So it's a uses of diode. Let's see. PN junction diode can be used as one of the application. It's a rectifier as a detector when we use it as a demodulator. We can use it as a switch, as well as we can use it as an LED, which is the light emitting diode. So these are the general uses of the PN junction diodes. So first let's discuss the PN junction diode as a rectifier. Let's have a look at this. So first thing is, what is rectification? Rectification is the process of converting alternating current AC into the direct current, and this process is known as the rectification. And rectifier, it is basically a device which converts alternating current into the direct current. That is what we call a rectifier. Rectifiers are of two types. One of them is the half wave rectifier, and another it's the full wave rectifier. And we can use a junction diode, can be used as a rectifier because it permits current in one direction only. So let's begin our discussion with the half wave rectifiers, and then we will switch to the full wave rectifier. So first, half wave rectifier. Let's look at this. This is the circuit diagram, and this is the uh, this is the alternating current source. This is something like this, that this is the transformer, and this is the primary side of a transformer, this is the secondary side of a transformer, and we have PN junction diode connected over here, and this is the load resistance from which we are going to take the output. This is V output, and this is the diode. Yes, so this is the general diagram. This is the rectifier stage, and then it would be a filter and then regulator, and this is the DC voltage output. As you can see, this diode continuously make it on and off, on and off, on and off. So when the situation is something like this, that this is the AC you are going to apply at this point, this is the AC source and AC input you are applying at on the primary side, and on the secondary side a diode has been connected. So as you can see this, that for this half cycle the diode is in forward bias conduction, and when diode is in forward bias situation, this is V input versus time t, this is V output versus time t. So as the diode is in forward bias situation, so diode will conduct, and if diode will conduct, you will get the input current, something like this, output voltage, something like this. Now as this half started, that means this is what the reverse bias situation. Yes, so as the reverse bias situation arises, this diode will be in reverse bias, and if this diode will be in reverse bias, there should be no conduction will occur, and as no conduction will occur, that means no output voltage would be available. I hope this is clear. Is it clear? Do you understand this? As you can see this, it conducts only up to this, and it is off during this, and if it is off, that means this path has been broken, and if this path has been broken, that means no output voltage would be available. I hope this is clear. Great. So this converts half cycle of applied AC into DC, and when a half wave rectifier is used, it converts n hertz AC into DC. Then the number of pulses per second present in the rectified voltage is n only, and this output is discontinuous because only for half of the cycle it will be having an output, and from the next half again this and again straight. So this output is discontinuating and pulsating, and this pulsation is what we call as a ripple. So basically, if someone asks me that what is the output of rectifier, then the output of rectifier, whether it could be any rectifier, is pulsating DC. It could not be a pure DC. I hope this is clear. Yes, so the output of rectifier is not DC, it is pulsating DC. And when I say it's a pulsating DC, it means it is the combination of AC plus DC. Yes, please keep this in mind, because when we started our discussion we used to say this, that this is the device which can convert AC to DC, AC to DC. So after this, as you can see, this a filter and regulator circuit is needed after even the rectification, and that will give me the pure DC. But what would be the output of this rectification stage? It is just the pulsating DC. It's an AC plus DC. Please keep this in mind. Now efficiency, or the DC power output divided by AC power input. For half wave rectifier, efficiency would be equals to, efficiency is equals to 0.406 multiplied by RL divided by RF plus RL multiplied by 100. This RL, it is the load resistance. RL, it is the load resistance, and RF, this is the forward bias resistance of diode. This is the forward bias resistance of diode. So RL, it's a load resistance. RF, it's a forward bias resistance of a diode. And for an ideal diode, this is equals to 0.406 multiplied by RL divided by, as its RF equals to 0 for an ideal diode, it's a divide by RL multiplied by 100. So as this has been gone, this is simply the 40.6 percentage. This is the efficiency for a half wave rectifier. Have you done this? And are you clear with this? Any doubts? Is there anything? Is there anything? Any doubts? Any confusion over it? Do you have any doubts, any confusion? No? Great. Now let's look at the second situation when it's a full wave rectifier. So this is the input signal, as you can see in the diagram, that this is the input signal, and that has been applied to this circuit. This is the transformer, and this is the primary side of the transformer. This is the secondary side of transformer. But we have used a certain unique transformer, and its name is the center tap transformer. Now what is the uniqueness of this transformer is that let's suppose you are applying this as an input, that let's say this is the input, then this is the input, then on this side let's say this will be the applied, then on the second side it would be reversed by 180 degree. So this is the speciality of center tap transformer. It will provide output to both, but there is a phase difference between this two output of this, and this phase difference would be by 180 degree. So basically this is center tapped. We are going to provide input over here, and it has been applied to the output to this. So as you can see this, on this side this will be the input, on this side this will be the input. So for the first half cycle, this diode would be in forward bias, and this diode D2 would be in reverse bias. So it is the situation where first half will be available due to diode D1, because D1 is on and D2 is off. Now in the second half, from this, so on this side D1 is reverse bias, but this D2 is forward bias. That means this peak will be available due to diode D2. Again this cycle repeats, and this will be due to D1, and this will go on continue. I hope this is clear. So as you can see this, now the output is available for the complete cycle, and this is what we understand by the full wave rectifier. So in this circuit, two diodes, which we call as a D1 and a D2, and a center tap transformer is used. In the center tap transformer, the secondary coil is wound into the two equal parts, and voltage at A, that is the input of diode D1, and voltage at B, that is the input of diode D2, with respect to center tap C, are out of phase with each other. So at any instant, if voltage to A is positive, then voltage to B is negative at that instant, and vice versa of this. That is what we call as the phase difference of pi. So during the positive or negative half cycles of alternating current input, diode D1 or diode D2 is forward bias, and diode D2 or D1 will be the reverse bias. So alternatingly they become a forward bias and a reverse bias. The output of full wave rectifier is continuous but again pulsating. That is what we discussed, that it is the pulsating DC, not pure DC. Efficiency, it's a 0.812, almost double of this, multiplied by RL divided by RF plus RL. RL is the load resistance, and RF, it's a forward bias resistance. So this is the forward bias resistance of a diode, and RL is the load resistance of a diode. And if it's an ideal diode, RF would be equals to 0. So this maximum efficiency would be 81.2%. Yes. So in full wave rectifier, though minimum 2 diodes are needed, only one diode conducts current at a time. Now diode D1 or D2 only conducts the current flow through the load resistance, that is what we call as an RL, and current flows through RL during both the half cycles and in the same direction. So it converts the whole cycle of applied input AC into the DC signal. And we can say that when a full wave rectifier is used to convert n hertz AC into DC, then the number of pulse per second present in the rectified voltage is 2n. Yes, so if you have provided frequency that is of 50 hertz AC, then the pulses you received having the frequency of 100 hertz for the full wave rectifier, and the pulses you received on the half wave, it's a 50 hertz, it's an N. This is for half wave rectifier. Yes. So the ripple frequency is twice that of the input frequency, and the rectifier voltages in the form of the pulses of the shape of the half sinusoids. And though it is unidirectional, it does not have a steady value. That is what we talked about, that it is not the DC exactly. So to get the steady DC output from the pulsating voltages, normally a capacitor is connected across the output terminals and parallel to the load RL, and we can also use an inductor in series with RL for the same purpose. This is just the filtering purpose. We are using capacitor or either inductor. Since this additional circuit appears to filter out the AC ripple and give a pure DC voltage, so this are known as the filter. Let's have a look. This is how the situation we construct this, that from here we are going to provide the AC supply, and this AC supply will be available to this rectifiers. And when we provide this supply to the rectifier, and rectifier will perform the rectification task, when rectification task is performed, the output of this rectification, which was pulsating DC, not pure DC, has been applied to the capacitor. And when it has been applied to the capacitor, then output to this will be the RL, and now this will be the pure DC. I hope this is clear. So this is how something it will behave. This is the AC input, and you can see this in this yellow colors, that this is the output of the rectifier stage alone, And now if I pass through this through the filter circuit, then it would be the output something like this blue colored. Yes, so this is the DC what we are talking about. Yes, so what is the role of capacitor in a filtering? Let's discuss a certain things about it. So when the voltage across the capacitor, is rising, it gets charged, and if there is no external load, it remains charged to the peak voltage of the rectified output. So when there is a load, it gets discharged through the load, and the voltage across it again begins to fall. So for the next half cycle of the rectified output, it again gets charged to the peak value, and the rate of fall of the voltage across the capacitor depends upon the inverse product, that is what we call as a tau is equals to 1 by RC, that we have learned in the RC circuits, that is the product of capacitor C and effective resistance RL. That is what we have used in the circuit, and that is what we call as a time constant. This is 1 by RC. So to make a time constant, a large value of C should C should be large. So capacitor input filters uses large capacitors, because if C is higher, time constant would be the lower, and the output voltage will be obtained by using capacitor input filter is nearer to the peak voltage of the rectified voltage. This types of filter is most widely used in the power supplies, because every time we are using the supplies at at our residence too, we are receiving the alternating current, and there are certain devices or many devices are there which uses a DC as an input. So when they use a DC as an input, what we need to do is we need to convert AC that is available to our household to the DC. Who will do this for us? Definitely it is a rectifier who is going to do this. So we, in the circuit, in the inbuilt circuit only, it is having the rectification, but only not only rectification will does a work for us, because our devices generally want the pure DC, and to provide a pure DC after a stage of rectification, you require a stage of filtration too. So what so our complete circuit is having a module, that is what we call as a rectification plus filtration, which can provide us the pure DC. Even it is the case that only not one stage of filter is going to be used, a multiple stage, that is what we call as a cascading. Yes, it's a cascading. Yes, cascading of the filtering circuits are used, so that we can remove out ripples in it, and we can have a smooth DC. That is what we call as a pure DC. Yes, if you understand that which devices are uses the DC, name the devices that we are using in these days that are using the direct current. Yes, our phone chargers are there, because our phone, how the phone works, because it is having the DC battery, or it is an AC battery. Yes, you are right. It is a DC battery. No AC could be stored. That means no AC battery could be available. Whatever the batteries are, they are of DC only. So DC batteries are there, and how does they charged? We are having the chargers. What does chargers do? The charger having the same thing, that it will receive an AC from the plug, or we can say from the socket, and it converts it from AC to DC. Not only this, multiple task is there, but this is the primary task. And how this AC to DC will be converted, then primary part of it, it's a rectifier, and then onwards it would be a filter task to convert that pulsating DC to the pure DC. I hope this is clear. Is it clear? Is it great? Let's have a look at the certain quick questions. A PN junction diode can be used as switch? Yes. A capacitor? Yes. A rectifier? Yes. All of the above? Yes. Great. Let's look at the next question. In a half wave rectifier, one diode is used. Yes, this is absolutely correct. This all are the incorrect options. Let's look at the third question. The third question says that in a full wave rectifier, the efficiency of an ideal diode, it's an 81.2 percentage. And if they have asked me for the half wave, for half wave rectifier, what is the efficiency? Yes, it is 40.6 percentage. So efficiency of a half wave rectifier, it's a 40.6 percentage. And for for full wave rectifier, this is 81.2 percentage. I hope you understood this. Great and well done. So I hope you are done with the half wave and full wave rectifier. Now let's talk about the special kind of diode, that is what we call as a Zener diode. Let's have a look. A Zener diode, basically it is a properly doped PN junction diode which has very sharp breakdown voltage. When operated in the reverse bias condition is called as the Zener diode. So basically it is a one kind of or modification of a certain PN junction diodes, and that can work efficiently in the reverse bias condition, and that is what we call as Zener diode. The circuit symbol for the Zener diode is something like this, as it is having a word Z, that means this two terms would be there. It's a Zener diode. This is the P junction, this is the N type material. But again, it's the same thing, it's an anode, it's a cathode, and this is its number, it's a 1N4148, or name when we call it as a Zener, it would be available, or it's a 1N4001 and something like this. So these are the symbols of Zener diode. When we see the VI characteristics of the Zener diode, let's look at this. On the x-axis I have kept the voltage, and on the y-axis I have kept the currents. Current will be in milliampere, and this reverse current will be in microampere. As you can see, this is the forward bias characteristics, almost same. It is something like this, yes, almost same as the normal PN junction diode. But when we see at the reverse bias characteristic, it is a very sharp breakdown voltage is there, and at that point of time, at that voltage, a current will increase abruptly. This is the VI characteristics of Zener diode. So in forward bias, its characteristics are similar to that of an ordinary PN junction diode. But in a case of a reverse bias, reverse bias, a small reverse current flows through it, which is almost constant until a certain critical voltage. That is what we call as breakdown voltage is reached. At the breakdown voltage, the reverse current increases sharply to a high value, and this breakdown voltage is known as the Zener voltage, and the reverse current is known as the Zener current. Zener voltage remains constant even though current through a Zener diode varies over a wide range, and this property of the Zener diode is used for regulating supply voltages. I repeat it one more time. A Zener voltage, which we call as a VZ, it will remain constant even though current through Zener diode varies over a wide range. So my voltage should remain a constant even though current would be varied. This is the property which we required in the voltage regulators. Technically we call them as a stabilizer, voltage stabilizers. Yes, so that's why a main application of Zener diode is voltage regulation. Zener voltage depends on the amount of doping, and if the Zener diode is heavily doped, the breakdown will occur at very low voltage. If the Zener diode is lightly doped, the breakdown will occur at the higher voltage. So depends on your application. You are going to decide the amount of doping that is to be used, and based on that you can set your voltages, Zener voltage. So now let's look at the Zener diode as a voltage regulator, a device which used to give constant output voltage even when the input voltage to it varies or load resistance to it changes, is known as a voltage regulator, or what we can say, it's a voltage stabilizer. Then this is the Zener voltage, this is the Zener diode, and voltage across this will be known as the Zener voltage. Once resistance has been connected over the here, and that is what we call as an RS, and another resistance has been connected to this is what we call as a load resistance, and output will be collected across this load resistors, which we call as a regulated output voltage. So the unregulated DC input voltage is connected to the Zener diode through a series resistance RH, such that the Zener diode is connected in the reverse bias. And if the input voltage V in increases the current through RS, and then the Zener and Zener diode also increases, this increases the voltage drop across RS without any change in the voltage across the Zener diode. So voltage across the Zener will remain as it is. So if the input voltage decreases, the current through the RS, and so as the Zener diode also decreases without any change in the voltage across the Zener diode. Therefore, any increase or decrease in the input voltage results in increase or decrease of the voltage drop across RS without change in the voltage across the Zener diode. So that we understand that the Zener diode acts as a voltage regulator. Let's suppose understand that I is the main current. I is the main current from the source, and IZ is the current passing through the Zener diode, and IL is the load current that passes through the load resistance RL. Then according to the KVL, it's I which is equals to IZ plus IL, and if Vs is the supply voltage, or Vs is the voltage drop across RS, and Vz is the Zener voltage, then we can have this Vn is equals to Vs plus Vz, or Vs is equals to V in minus Vz. Let's understand this in very simple manner. Then the situation is something like this, that let's suppose this is the supply voltage, this is the resistance RS, and we have a Zener connected over here, and from this side we are going to provide this Vs, and let's suppose this is the load resistance RL across which output would be taken, and this is the V output. So what we are supposed to do is, this is, let's say, Vz. So what you need to understand is that if V in is less than Vz, if V in is less than Vz, then Zener is deactivated. But if V in is greater than Vz, then if V in is greater than Vz, then Zener is activated. Yes, I hope this is clear. So you need to remember this two things only, that whether V in is less than Vz or whether V in is greater than Vz. Let's have a numerical directly, and from this numerical point of view we will understand how the Zener is used to regulate the voltage. Let's have a look. A very interesting question. Let's have a look. Let's say this is 100 ohm and this is a Zener, and we have this resistance that is of 900 ohm. This Zener voltage is, let's say, 10 volt, and we have given V in is equals to 5 volt. So let's suppose find IZ, which is current through Zener, this I1, this IL, and voltage across load resistance. This is the requirement. So look at the circuit in a very good manner. This is V in, the input voltage is just a 5 volt, and we have connected the Zener, and that Zener voltage is of 10 volt. So as we understand that as Vn is less than Vz, so Zener is deactivated. And as Zener is deactivated, Iz, that means the current through Zener is 0, because no current will pass through it. And if no current is passed through it, then this path has been broken. So whatever the current that will pass through I1, it is the same as an IL. That means I1 and IL would be the same. That is what we understand. Now how to find out this I1? Then to find out the I1, we understand that voltage, it's a 5 volt, divide by total resistance. This resistance is of 100 ohm, this resistance is of 900 ohm. So this is equals to 100 plus 900, and this is equals to 5 divided by 1000, which stands to, it's a 5 milliampere. I hope this is clear. Is it clear? So whether you want I1 or whether you want IL, this is the same. It's an I1 which is equals to IL, that is equals to 5 milliampere. Now what we need to do is we need to find out the VL. So to find out the VL, that would be equals to IL multiplied by RL. This IL, it's a 5 milliampere, that is the 5 divided by 1000 multiplied by 900 ohm is the resistance. So 200 has been gone. It's a 45 divided by 10, which is equals to 4.5 volt. So this would be the answer. I hope this is clear. Is it clear? Is it? Are you sure? Are you? Great. Any doubts? Is there anything? No. Great. Now let's suppose same as the circuit. Let me redraw the circuit first. This is 100 ohm. This is the Zener, and Zener is of 10 volt. It's a VZ which is equals to 10 volt, and the load resistance, this is of 900 ohm. A current I1 will pass through here, Iz from here, IL through here, V in, let's say 20 volt. What do you want? You want to find out Iz, IL, VL. Yes. So what is the situation? What do you think? What will happen? As you can see, this V in is greater than Vz. As V in is greater than Vz, Zener will be activated, and as Zener will be activated, a voltage across this, it's a 10 volt. So if voltage across this is 10 volt, voltage across this must be a 10 volt, because these two are in parallel connection. So what we understand is that VL would be equals to 10 volt. And if VL is 10 volt, so the current could be calculated. It's an IL which is equals to VL by RL. This is equals to 10 divide by, this is equals to 10 divided by 900. So this has been gone. It's a 1 by 90 ampere, that is the IL. Now let's calculate the I1. How will we do this? I1. So what I understand is the voltage here, it's a 20 volt. The voltage at this end, it's a 10 volt. So this is I1 which is equals to 20 volt minus of 10 volt divide by resistance, and that resistance is of 100 ohm. So this is equals to 20 minus 10 is 10 divide by 100, and this is equals to 1/10 of ampere. This is the I1. So now we are having I1, and here I1 would be there, which is being divided into two segments, Iz and IL. So if I want to solve this Iz, I can use this relation that I1 is equals to Iz plus IL, and this is equals to 1 by 10, which is equals to Iz plus IL, which is 1 by 90. So Iz, it's 9 by 90 minus of 1 by 90, which is equals to 8 by 90 ampere, and this is the value of Iz. Now look at this question one more time and understand that what we did is, whatever the circuit theory that we have applied, that is absolutely okay, but what does its physical significance is? Do we gain something by doing this? Let's have a look at this and understand the one thing. Whatever the maximum voltage that can be applied over load, whatever the maximum voltage that we can apply to the load, a same voltage or the same breakdown voltage of Zener is used over here. So if I want that here I want maximum 10 volt, so I will choose the Zener whose breakdown voltage is a 10 volt. Now if I say that maximum I should get a 10 voltage here, it means if I get less than 10, it is absolutely okay, no problem. But if I get a greater than 10 voltage, this device can damage. So what I wish that I must get not more than 10 voltage anytime. If I got less than that, it would be okay for me at this point of time. So what the situation is, let's look at this at this point I required a 10 volt at max, not more than that, because if voltage is more than that, it could damage my device. So here I have received 5 volt only. That means if it is 5 volt and it directly applies to here, it doesn't can cause or create a 10 volt, so it is absolutely okay. And in this situation Zener has been shut off, it has been deactivated. Now but in the next case we are having the 20 volt as the input, and at this end what maximum I can have is 10 volt. If I get anything which is exceeding 10 volt, it can damage the circuit. And if it could damage the circuit, I cannot bear it. So what we are supposed to do is, we have kept the Zener of 10 volt. So what Zener has intelligently done is that it has create across its potential a 10 volt, and I get voltage across load, or the voltage across the RL, which is exactly equals to 10 volts. So my circuit has been saved, and the rest amount of current, or I should say excess amount of current, has been passed through the Zener, and Zener has no damage at all. This is because this is just the current, or we can say reverse bias current, that can flow through the Zener. So whatever, either it could be an increase in current or whether it could be a decrease in current through the Zener, it it provides us the regulation that no additional amount of voltage could be reached to the load resistance. And this is how it works. I hope this is clear. Is it clear? So do you understand this clearly? Do you have any doubts? Is there anything? No? Great. So now let's distinguish between the avalanche breakdown that we have studied in the characteristics of the PN junction diode and the Zener breakdown. So what avalanche breakdown is? It takes place when both sides of junctions are lightly doped. And while we are talking about the Zener breakdown, it takes place when both sides of junctions are heavily topped. In the avalanche breakdown, depletion layer is large, but in the Zener breakdown, depletion layer is narrow. In the avalanche breakdown, applied reverse bias voltage sets up a weak electric field across the depletion layer, while in the case of the Zener breakdown, applied reverse bias voltage sets up very strong electric field across the depletion layer. In the case of the avalanche breakdown, minority carriers collide with the atoms in the depletion region, and consequently the covalence bonds are broken and electron and hole pairs are going to be generated. While in the case of the Zener breakdown, this is the Zener breakdown, minority carrier collides with the atom in the depletion region and electron hole pairs are generated. So this occur at high reverse bias voltage, and this is going to occur at the low reverse bias voltage based on their dopings. So we can arrange their dopings. We can arrange the doping level of the Zener, and we can arrange their levels of breakdowns. Let's look at certain quick questions. At breakdown region of a Zener diode, which of the following does not change much? Yes, at breakdown region, a voltage does not change. Next, Zener diode can be used as, yes, Zener diode can be used as a voltage regulator. I hope this is clear. Is it clear? Is it? Great. So let's wind up this session over here. This was all about the part 2 of the PN junction diode, in which we have discussed two very important applications. One as a rectifier, and second a Zener diode as a voltage regulator. Please revise this. Please have a questions based on this. Only this will save us. Thank you. Have a good day. Take care.